Kosovo, for those people who don't remember it, genocide, predominantly by Serbian troops, against locals, ethnic divisions. It was horrific. I fortunately never went there, but I know friends who did and covered it as cameramen, war cameramen, and mates who were in the army who went out there. Some of the things that happened there were truly horrific and barbaric, beyond ethnic cleansing, etc. You talk about, how on earth do you go to a war zone and start looking at 40 bodies that have been machine gunned in two buildings when the building's been set on fire, the roof's collapsed? How on earth do you go about identifying those bodies and what happened to them?
This was one of the first crime scenes that was investigated in Kosovo. And it was important because at that stage, the refugees were not coming back from Albania. And we had bodies everywhere. They were in the gardens, they were in the houses, they were at the side of the road, just everywhere. And as the refugees came back, of course, there was a lot of tidying up. So bodies started to become buried. So this particular site was important because it was one of the first indictment sites. And all of the material was in situ rather than having been cleared by the people who were coming back.
So this was a preserved war crime. There was evidence of a war crime here, but you had to kind of unravel it.
Yes. So with a war crime, what you're showing is that this is not normal combat that you would expect between forces. This is individuals of a military or a paramilitary basis undertaking this against civilians. And so what we had in this building were 44 men, well, 43 because one escaped, from the ages of about 14 into the 80s. So these were not individuals who were clearly other military forces. These were civilians. And in fact, they were individuals on their way down to Albania on the refugee trail. And they'd been taken off the trail, taken to this outhouse, separated into two rooms. A gunman had stood at the door of each room, sprayed each room with Kalashnikov fire. One man who got into the corner before anybody else, his body was shielded by all of his family, friends, and people he'd met. So he survived. They then threw in straw, they threw in a combustant, which is probably petrol, and they torched the building. So he had to lie there underneath all of these dead bodies that were burning above him because he knew if he came out, he would be shot. And that made him a really important witness against Milosevic. Because if you have an eyewitness who says, this is what happened, and then you have a forensic team who come in who have not been told what have happened, but they are able to devise from the evidence the scenario that's occurred, and the two match, then what you have is very, very strong evidence for the International Criminal Court.